Welcome to the Success Journey Show. Let's travel together through the lives of individuals on the road to success.
Hey, what's going on, travelers? It's Ricky Venters and Marlon Madden, and we are back with you for another episode of the Success Journey Show. Marlon, what's good, bro? How you doing today?
I'm all right, man. A lot of gripes. I have a gripe, Rick. But before I do that, let me ask you, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well, but I want to hear your gripes, man.
My gripe is this, right? So I don't know if, it's funny when you're seeing stuff happen on TV, it's happening in your life and you're experiencing it. So I have a house in Florida, right?
Yeah.
Right outside of Tampa. Everybody knows Florida, a lot of the weather situations, always hurricanes or tropical storms or whatever the situation is down there, right? Then I'll say I have a house in Georgia, I have a house in North Carolina, right? So you'd think a person that have a house multiple places, all over the states, especially if you're in Florida, North Carolina had a storm, Georgia, this place that I was in, had a real bad storm, had to do a claim there, right?
Yeah.
Storm messed up. Another storm in North Carolina, had to do a claim there. A storm. I've never claimed any storm in Florida. However, there was a storm in VA, which my house here.
Yeah.
I end up flooding twice.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Okay. So we pay for insurance. And we're like, insurance should cover it, right? Yeah, especially if it's a substantial amount. Because it's more than my deductible. I'm gonna call them, right?
Yeah.
Now Florida is going through where there's a lot of insurance companies pulling out of Florida. They're saying climate change and how Florida is operating business wise is not conducive for them. So there's a lot of them pulling out. So they sent us a letter. We're not renewing your policy in March of next year. You're going to have to look for a new
homeowner insurance,
insurance provider, because we're just not going to do Florida anymore.
Yeah.
Not because you're bad, but we're not going to do Florida anymore. So we say, all right, cool. Call around, call USAA. USAA also doesn't, they don't insure in Florida, but what they do, they send you to a third party, which that's what they did to this company. So we said, we're going to go back to USAA. USAA will give us that third party. When they ran through, they're like, oh man, we're having a problem here. I said, what's the problem? You have too many claims in the last 5 years. I said, I have insurance, correct? Yes. What were those claims for? Because they can see them.
Yeah.
For hurricanes, inclement weather, something that was weather caused by weather. So I was like, so what did you want to happen when I pay for the insurance? Why are you penalizing me for using my insurance when it was needed at that instance? What am I paying for? So what is the business model for insurance company? I don't understand why so now I'm going to really get on this, because what if they're regulating everything and all these different things, why are you not regulating insurance companies to say you shouldn't be holding your customers accountable? First of all, it wasn't fraud.
Yeah, exactly.
It wasn't any kind of, they could see the work, they could see the damage, and then I send them picture of the work that was done to fulfill whatever, right?
Yeah.
So what is the gripe here? So this is my gripe with them. Like, yo, your insurance companies, you guys gotta ship up or ship out, because I know it's a hard uphill fight, but for a person that owns a lot of property, it's stupid, because now you have all these different properties, and now you're saying, so if a tree fall on my house, should I make a claim? Because if I'm gonna need insurance in 3 years to renew my insurance, they might say no, because I have too many claims out.
Dude, it's what a homeboy tell us? Glendon, I think that's his name.
Yeah,
I was
gonna call
this a
long
long time ago. Yeah. And he shared something about that as well,
with the Hurricane Katrina, how they were working it.
Yep. Working people, man. Just working people.
So I might have to bring him back on here just to even talk about that whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. Nah, it's crazy, man. And the crazy part about it is the people that actually say the stuff from the companies.
Yes.
It's like, are you hearing what you're telling me right now? Like, do you really hear what you're saying? Does that make sense to you? Yeah, but no, that's our policy. That's what we are. That's what we do. So, all right. Oh, Marlon, the Gramps gripes.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna do a let it fly on my Facebook and talk about insurance company. I'm probably gonna at some of them too.
Yeah.
Like Travelers, is it Travelers? Yeah, Travelers. You will never get business from me ever again.
Yeah, not you, Travelers. The Travelers insurance.
The
company.
Traveler that their insurance company, they suck. I'll say that loud and clear on this program. You all suck. So if y'all ever want to give it an endorsement because we have Travelers and you thought it was cool to say Travelers,
hey man, don't mess up my discount they're trying to give me next week. No joking. Oh man, yo, dude, we've been doing this for almost 5 years, bro. 5 years, man.
Yes, sir.
On this podcast consistently, and
yeah, man.
And guys, I know you guys heard us a little break, but probably by the time you hear this, the break has been far removed from here. But just know we be recording all the time, man.
Yep.
And episodes that you're hearing today are episodes that have been in the pipeline for a little bit, and we're happy to get them out to you guys, man. I want to shout out our media team for standing in the gap and getting us back up and going. Love you guys.
Love you guys. Bonus at Christmas.
Yeah, bonus at Christmas. But yeah, man, it is, man. Listen, well, hey, you know what, guys, we're gonna jump right into it. Me and Marlon can talk all forever. But today we have a phenomenal guest, like we do every single week, guys. I mean, if you're looking for a show that you want to hear people's experience from growing grit, growing grits, growing grit.
I wasn't gonna say that.
Growing through grit, right? Growing through grit, and just a testimony of starting small and just really believing in themselves, right? That's what this show is about. A place where people believed in themselves to achieve the things that they envisioned, had dreams about achieving. And you're going to hear that again on this show today, what our guest is coming on. So without further ado, the next voice you'll hear after this
the rendition,
is going to be our good friend Randy. All right, everybody.
Yes.
We'll talk to you in a little bit.
All right, one love.
You've been listening to the Success Journey Show. You can check us out on our social media on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Also on our website, thesuccessjourneyshow.com. Enjoy the rest of the show.
Hey, what's going on, travelers? We are back again. And for our favorite segment of the show, man, this is our segment of the show where we get to take the time to speak to a guest that comes from guests from all around the world. And today we have a special guest coming from Atlanta. We got a lot of folks down there in the ATL, man, and we just want to welcome Randy Hazelton to the show. Randy, thanks so much for joining us today.
No, man, listen, I'm pleased to be here. Thank you all so much for having me. I've been looking forward to this.
Man,
yes,
honor,
and
man.
I have a fellow, you know what I'm saying? So Ricky, you're
I'm the minority.
Today, so
I'm the minority.
Yeah, you're minority.
You
know what I'm saying?
It's all right.
Jealous. I'm hating in my head a little bit, man.
Yeah. That's why I got to point it out, man. I be hating on Ricky, man. You should see his dad. So his dad is full white here, like full white.
Yeah.
Edge up as crisp as anything else. Not one hairline has gone back. Brother Ventures, we call him Brother Ventures. I call him Brother Ventures. Not one hair has been pushed back from his head. And I look and I'm like, man, Ricky, you're gonna have a good hairline for the rest of your life, man.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's just not in my DNA, man. I come from a long lineage of always admit. So this is what's in store for me. The people that come after me, this is just where we at.
They say your son ain't got a chance. I told my son that you better hope that you get your mom's party to hear, because I tell you what.
Oh man. Well, Randy, let's start off with you just sharing a little bit about yourself. with our listeners around the world?
Yeah, so I am a restaurant, food and beverage entrepreneur, and that is mainly centered around franchising restaurant brands. So we have Shake Shack, for example. We got Freshens, for example. What I do is take pre-existing restaurant brands, take their playbook, and open up my own stores and operate them. Currently, most of our stuff is in airports, but we're doing some stuff on the street, which we'll get into later. But that's what I do now. I've been in the game for 15 years, but I didn't start. I started in corporate America. I learned really quickly that it was just not for me. Like I just kind of really dislike it. I'm not built for that system. Nothing wrong with it, at all. You just gotta know what's for you and what's not. And it was apparent to me the way I was feeling every day about it, that wasn't for me. So the long story short is me and a buddy of mine who was also in corporate America and was feeling the same way I was, which just couldn't get comfortable there, started thinking about the things that we could do together entrepreneurially. And we decided to go into the restaurant business. Not because we had any experience in it or had ever even worked in a restaurant. We just spent so much time hanging out, going to bars and lounges and that kind of thing that we thought we could figure it out. Now, that's not a good approach to take getting into anything, because, we bumped our head a lot along the way, but we, young and just feeling like we could do it. So that's kind of how we got into it. And it so happened that we put all of our money into it. We bet everything on Black. And when that happened, we don't come from, there's no safety nets. So we had to buckle down and make it work. And by the need of having to do that and the process of doing that, we learned the business. We learned the opera. I was in there doing everything. And after all, we look back and man, we're pretty good at this. And other people took note. And we started getting invited into conversations that opened up or exposed us to airport restaurants. And we got an invitation to participate in airport restaurants. And we went into that. And, you go through airports, you see the kind of brands that are in there. A lot of national brand. It's the quick service, people on in and out. And that's what introduced us to franchising. And that was 11, 12 years ago. And we've been doing that since. So I wish I could say I mastermind the whole thing and just knew this was coming and mapped it all. It was just kind of following at a core level, my instincts and trying to make better and better decisions around what I was learning along the way. And I look back and I ended up, being a pretty decent hamburger salesman. So
there you go, dude.
Hey, Ray Kroc would have loved you, brother.
Yeah.
You're the pretty good hamburger salesman too.
So that's what I do, man.
Man, I love it, man. And you summed it up so beautifully, because you captured so much in your summary of where you were and where you had to travel to and kind of your mindset along the way. And we're going to backtrack and we're going to break it down a little bit for our travelers to just dissect it a little bit more for us. So you said you were in a corporate world. Where were you in the corporate world? What did you see to where you didn't feel like you fit, like you were that puzzle piece to fit into that system of the corporate world?
Yeah, so I went to Hampton University. Shout out to Hampton University.
Yes, sir.
I stayed and got an MBA. And what we were taught was to kind of inform yourself, condition yourself, prepare yourself to go compete in this corporate system, right?
Yeah.
We got internships at these different companies, and the whole thing was preparing for that. So I was kind of pre-programmed to do that. So that's how I got into corporate America. We can, interviewed different companies, got offers, and chose a Fortune 100 company that was in Philly. And old legacy, 100-plus-year-old company, been there a while. Everybody in there was Ivy League, I was one of, a couple Black people that I remember. And that's just not been my life. I didn't generally grow up like that. I was exposed. I grew up military, but then went to HBCU, and where I found my comfort was not in places like that, and hadn't had much exposure to it. So some of it was just culture shock, which is that environment is nothing wrong with it. It's just got to feel good to you, and that just wasn't kind of where I wanted to spend the most of my time, and wasn't what I came to get familiar with and to appreciate around my environment. So that was one of it. The second thing was I didn't own it. And that's also okay, but it wasn't okay for me. I mean, I'm sitting here putting in long hours, doing a lot of work to sell products that I don't really relate to, and whose culture I don't connect to, and whose vision doesn't mean a whole lot to me. As I've gotten older, I'm like really big into alignment, and all these things were just out of alignment. So it was a handful of things. I mean, one was just the environment, kind of the culture, that kind of thing. Two was, the connection to what my work ultimately produced. Three was, the vision that I was to follow being a part of that company, which I just wasn't connected to. And then I think the last one was I just came to feel like I would not be paid what I was worth, what I saw my worth to be. And to do that, I would have to kind of do it on my own accord, so to speak. So it was an array of things. Took a while to like take the leap, but the feeling of discomfort or dissatisfaction, it was just consistent all along the way. I want to say this though, I'm not doodling on anybody working according. What I'm saying, it's like there are many days when I was, trying to build this thing and being broke and everything else, and I wished I still had my health insurance and had that check coming every week. Not knocking it. It's just about knowing what is for you, and I knew that was not for me. It's not about got to do this or got to do that. I just knew that was not for me.
Yeah, dude.
So was somebody in your family entrepreneur, or was the Hampton experience going to a HBCU that awakening? Because I know that can awaken some of that entrepreneurial, own your own kind of thing. Also, you're from Atlanta, where, Atlanta, you're seeing a lot of Black people that are very prevalent owning their own and up in the business world. What was it that caused you, like when you got into that space? Good job. You're there, you're producing, you're doing whatever, but you're just like, not the fit.
I don't honestly, man, I don't really know what I was modeling. Like my dad was in the military. I grew up military. So we moved over. And so I live in Atlanta now. That's my home. They will never take me out of here alive, but I grew up all over the place. Like I never lived anywhere more than 2 years until I went to college. So, all over the place, overseas, back, the whole deal.
What branch of service?
Army.
Okay. I'm Marine Corps, so I won't hold it against your dad, but thank you for his service.
I'll let y'all work that out, man.
Yeah.
But no, my parents were raised in a generation where it's like you came out, you got a good job, you work hard, you provided for your family, and you saved enough along the way to be able to kind of retire and chill. My mom was mostly a stay-at-home mom. We moved around a lot. So these were very security-focused people, by their conditioning. So, and even at Hampton, my route was, how do I best prepare myself to go work in, as I was mentioning? So entrepreneurship wasn't as kind of prevalent and like top of the culture as it is now. And then I wasn't exposed to it because my family, immediate and extended family, that's the blue collar. My dad going into the military was probably among the more successful folks in the family. Most people would blue collar, I go spend summers with that. I just didn't see it. So the best that I can guess is that it's just kind of in my spirit, is just kind of my core to figure things out somewhat on my own terms, because I just didn't have a model.
Yeah.
And I just trusted my gut and followed my instincts, and a lot of bruises along the way, but I would have rather done that, all the bruises and all of that, than be living and working in a space that I just couldn't get comfortable with. Just didn't feel right. So
now when you say, you didn't have that model, I definitely can resonate, right? Both my parents were like blue collar workers, in the tech field, all this kind of stuff. And, 9 to 5, my dad is still at the same company where he started, right? He retired 40 plus years, same company. My mom was on the same track, and, I remember when I was leaving my first job, I was asking my dad, I said, man, what do I do, man? What I asked for? He's like, man, I don't know, man. This is my I'm in the same company all my life.
Yeah, right.
You know, but one thing I said all that because it's when I started listening to things and start seeing things a little bit different, and just little nuggets here and there that would just start come into my reading, and things I'm reading, things that I'm seeing, things I'm watching, and I want to see from you, is it as similar as like, as you started feeling uncomfortable, were you starting to surround yourself in environments of people that were talking the language of entrepreneurship, whether it may have been a book, whether it may you saw something? I know YouTube wasn't as prevalent as 15 years ago, but as it is now, you weren't having everyone saying, well, if you have YouTube right now, you can make $10,000, with your cell phone. You weren't hearing that all the time, but there was a lot of people still starting to come up at that time. Like, what was it in your shift in your mindset that you saw that this was an avenue that you started taking? You said you and your boy would started talking about it and different things that you guys can possibly do together.
Yeah, I mean, I think my first exposure to things that like really ramped up my curiosity was my family from the South, and every year we have a family reunion, and this was in Fort Myers, Florida. And
Okay.
10 years old. Yeah, Fort Myers, Florida. I'm like 10 years old. And one of the things we did at this reunion is we took these river boats down these canals. It's like canals that'll go out into the ocean. And we got on a riverboat, and where the riverboat started, it was like decent houses that backed up against the canals, and we going down the riverboat, just a bunch of, country folk, just kind of enjoying the ride. And as we got further down the canal, the houses started getting like bigger and bigger and bigger. And I had got to the point where I had never seen people, like I had never seen houses that looked like that, like states. And it's all white people, and it's like a Saturday, they have barbecuing and drinking champagne, and like, I'm like, how are they? What are they? How is that their scenario? And this, I just hadn't seen it, and I just got curious about. I started getting curious about how people could end up like that, and it's like, oh, that's wealth. How do you create wealth? And a lot of it was about ownership, and I'm young, right? So I would then pay attention to late night. They would have like the infomercials that said, hey, get rich on real estate. Anything that said like get rich, I'm kind of like, what's that about? And I would beg my parents to like buy me the programs around how to get rich on real estate. Most of the time they didn't. A couple of times they did. But like in the process of getting curious about that stuff, I started stumbling on different stories of people that had done well for themselves. And it generally tied back to owning some type of business, the ones that I found, whether it was in real estate or otherwise. So I think for me, that was the first kind of points of exposure, just seeing people living on a whole nother level and wondering like how that happened, and just kind of following that curiosity.
I'm telling you, man, it's funny. And a lot of times, I've said this on this program, on this show. I was doing entrepreneurship when people were asking me, so what are you going to do? Like, I had my own cab in New York, and people was asking me like, so they're sitting me down, so what's your next step? Are you going to college? Yeah. And I'm surrounded by everybody that's going to college, and everybody that's in the corporate America didn't know that I was better off than some of them, right? Yeah. And what I saw was, and I remember when I was going to join the military, it was so funny. And I don't know, I was going to join the military. I went to, it's funny. I went to Brother Ventures because Brother Ventures was heavy on pushing me to be a radiologist. He was like, hey, those guys make some money, da-da-da-da. And I went to Brother Ventures and said, hey, I think I'm going to do the military. And he was like, oh, no. Radiology, man, you got to go to do this 2-year program. And I just said, you know what? I'm not telling nobody else. Yeah. And then I left. And just like you said, somebody put in my hand that Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I read it. And I always say, I never read the full thing. Of course, I eventually did, but I never read the full thing. I read halfway and I said, boom. I said, okay, let's go. And just like you said, real estate or ownership was something that clicked in my head that said the only way you can have any kind of say-so, have any kind of, when you sit at a table that people will recognize you, is if you own something and you don't feel gratitude just to be at the table. You know that you bring something to that table. So that's what I started to do. So now that because you leave your job with your friend, don't know the story if you just left your job cold turkey and you say, I'm going to start this business, and you talk about those broke times. How do you sustain that lifestyle that you want to sustain while you said, hey, we put everything on black? Right?
Yeah.
And then you look in your fridge and everything is on empty.
Yeah.
Talk about those times.
Yeah, for me, I didn't sustain that lifestyle. I went broke, man. Like, honestly, like in the process of starting my business. So I'll say this: when I was working in corporate America, I started getting into real estate investing, like on the side. And it was when the market was doing well, so you're able to buy low and sell high pretty easily. And I did that enough times to create a little nest egg for a 25-year-old, single person with not a whole lot of bills. So
what year is this? This
is between like 2004 or 5 to like
before the drop.
Seven. Right. It was right when that thing was bubbling. So it was hard. So that was just the luck of timing. But was able to buy and sell, had stacked some a nice little nest egg, and then was good at saving. I mean, that's one thing about the generation my parents come from, is like, you're going to save your money, save every check, put something with like that whole thing. So I had that working for me. And then I got into the business. Me and my business partner, he was working at a place where he's paid really well. So we were kind of about equal in terms of the reserves we had to contribute to the business. We jumped into the restaurant business, started a restaurant from scratch, not knowing anything. And we went into just a box. Like this was not a second generation restaurant. It's red clay floors, cinder block wall. So we got to build it out. Yeah. Another thing I would never do, but you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So we put all of our money into it. It was done. Like there was no cushion. There was like, what are you talking about budgeting? We just do this, right? And so going into it with no more cash cushion, and we finished it all, but we had nothing to rely on. We thought it's just going to work now. It's just going to start making money now, and we'll earn off that. And then on top of that, we didn't know what we were doing. So the operations wasn't good. The vendors were overcharging us for, ingredients and everything else. And we started, kind of having, what do they say? Having more month at the end of the money. I mean,
yeah.
we could not keep up with the bills, and we couldn't get the operation performing well enough because we didn't have the skills yet, the expertise. That was probably the first 12 months, and by the end of that 12 months, we got a mound of debt. Not a good financial outlook just based on how the business was going. We had to make some decisions, and that was, we need to file personal bankruptcy, because at that point we had taken out loans to help support the business. We had to get rid of our homes and move in together. We got rid of our cars. We shared one car, like a 97 Ford Expedition.
Oh man, gas guzzler.
I'm telling you, I mean, we lost that and shared one motorcycle. So like, this is real. I mean, but stay committed to the business, because that was it. There is no, and I don't know where you pick up from here. So in terms of maintaining the lifestyle, our lifestyle completely changed. We lived in the restaurant and we grinded it out until it started making sense. And we could understand financial statements and forecasting enough to build kind of a business that would start to dig out. And that's what happened. There was no maintaining the lifestyle. There was only committing to the ultimate success of this. And that meant sacrificing everything.
Wow.
Ooh.
I don't know if you guys heard that, man. Yes, wow. That right there, you get my hair in my head. Stood up. The hair in you guys, my hair in your head, Marlon, already stood up on that one. They nothing, right? So what I heard in that really is, one, the partnership, right? Because at any time, any of you guys could have went back to corporate world. Like, you guys, this is not like they didn't have an option to go back into the corporate world and make money and all right, guys, let's start this all over again. Let's go build up some more cash and let's build up some capital, and then we'll hit pause button again and try it again. Like they were like, nah, we're going to double down on this thing and sell our houses, sell our cars, and we're going to share everything. And we stay committed to the vision. And that speaks a lot, dude, because especially since you said that you didn't have the pathway forged out in front of you, right? You're really walking in a path that you don't, you're what you know is faith. That at that point, you're like, yo, this is going to work, right? We're going to make this thing work. And so just to hear how you guys has really doubled down, not just double down individually, but together, knowing that you had qualifications to go out and to say, you know what, we're not going to do this no more, guys. We're going to go back. Let's go do our thing, right? Go back in the corporate world. It speaks volumes to it, dude. And a lot of people, they try to start a business, and if it don't work the first week, they're like, man, this thing ain't working. I was supposed to make $1,000 this week, and I only made I spent $1,000. You know, like people are they just don't understand what the sacrifice.
Yeah.
Right. But talk about you went through the sacrifice, made a sacrifice. You guys are driving on one motorcycle like Dumb and Dumber. All right. You know,
who's in the front? Who's in the back?
Yeah,
who's in the front?
I will say, not at the same time.
Oh, okay.
Like you driving, I'm gonna walk away until it's free.
Oh man.
Yeah, sharing one motorcycle. Yeah,
on a motorcycle. And now you're like, okay, now we got it. You start working the business. What kind of restaurant did you have? Like, that's one thing I want to know. What kind of restaurant was it that you were building out at first, and then what made you start shifting to the franchising model? You said someone introduced you to the whole franchising thing. Talk about what you started off with and how you started to move to the next level.
Yeah, so our first restaurant was a full service, kind of casual fine dining restaurant. So it's a full bar. It's table service, composed menu, chef kind of in the back. I mean, it was something that we designed that we just thought, one, people would like to be in because the aesthetics were nice. It would be something different for that neighborhood at the time, because that neighborhood was kind of coming along. And that, our community, Black people, to me, we are the trendsetters. Like in large,
100%.
we kind of lead mainstream culture on what direction to go from like a trend standpoint. And so that said, our instincts were that if we create something nice, something that we want to be inside of, like some place that we want to gather and eat and drink, it'll spread, because we like to be part of that, and we help create that kind of stuff, our community. And so that's kind of what led to taking that approach, and that worked. People did want to be in there, and it did feel like a special place, and it was different than what was out there. And so that's the part that kind of kept enough momentum to give us time to figure it out, because people were coming, and it was the newer thing.
Yeah.
I got introduced into franchising by way of the airport. We got pretty good at operating. It took a solid 12 months. We just getting our ass kicked. I'm sorry. Do y'all curse?
No, you're good. You're good.
Okay. So we getting our ass kicked, right? But over time, we learned it and got really good at the different aspects of hospitality, restaurants, from operations to service to kind of menu composition to, the whole thing. And that caught the attention of a lot of people kind of that move around the city that do different. We're in there every day meeting thousands of people a week just by virtue of being in there every day. And people are seeing us. It's like, man, you guys ever thought about this? You guys ever thought about that? And one of those, have you guys ever thought about the airport? They call it airport.
Yep.
And to that space, getting in that space is competitive. You got to go and compete for available real estate, right?
Yep.
Part of the thing that makes it competitive is the team that comes together to compete. And our story, because of how we did it, where we did it, was in a historical neighborhood. that we were in there every day, that we supported the community, we became the operators that a lot of people around the city wanted to see do well, because we just giving our all and treating people well and doing the right thing. And a lot of times, that stuff will come back to you. And so we began being invited to compete with teams in some of the airport restaurant business. And when you're putting together those proposals saying, okay, if the airport says, listen, we got 5 spaces that are vacant that people can bid on, and we want a coffee shop, a burger place, a pizza place, whatever, you go and find the brands that fit what the airport is saying they want. And oftentimes it's quick service, you call it fast food brands. So in the process of getting on a team and then figuring out what's the right mix of brands to put together that we think will be most compelling to win, we were introduced to all these franchise brands. And so that's how we got into the franchising space.
Man, I love it, dude.
So
wait, I ask one question someone's probably asking. Were you guys the chefs? Were you cooking the food, or did you have to hire a chef? Okay.
Nothing. We had chefs.
Okay.
Talking about, we just thought we could do it. It was the most mindless entry point into entrepreneurship you could take.
Yeah.
And it was more so about, if I'm being honest, more so about, well, I can't do that, which was the corporate thing. And I will say this too, because you were talking about, like, man, when times get hard and, what do you do at the worst of the times? Like, this is when people ask me, how you should take the jump? I tell people, you take the jump when you can't not take the jump. Like, at the worst of times, I still would have rather be going through bankruptcy, having my house taken. I didn't sell it. It was on steps of the city. I'm just being honest. Yeah. But through all of that, I would rather have been doing that than in corporate America, because it's just more aligned with what I want for myself and where I want to go. So in a weird and kind of crazy way, I was still more comfortable. Yeah. So anyway, I was thinking about that as you were talking about it, but that is how we got into franchising, was kind of through that process.
Wow. Sometimes I tell people ignorance is bliss sometimes. Well, they say ignorance is bliss, but I'll say sometimes. But you could have a twofold. You could have the analysis paralysis, somebody that sit down and they'll try to map out everything till 55 million years. And you're like, weren't you going to open a restaurant? And they're like, yeah, man. But on year 35, I still haven't figured out how I'm going to.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out the menu at year 35,
right? And so they never start, right? Because they analyze everything, never start. Then you have the guy, of course, you guys that jumped in. And that happy medium is very hard to find in an entrepreneur because of sometimes how the entrepreneur mind work. We're creatives. We learn from what the creatives could be anything. But because entrepreneur creatives, you don't see you just see okay, go. Let's go.
Yeah, thanks.
Let's go. Okay, yep, I got it. Let's go. We got this. Oh, we found a place. We're gonna build it out. You didn't even know to say, okay, let's find some place that already have a restaurant. Oh, I don't know if when you rented, if you ask the landlord, can we get some money from you to build it out and you give us that, because those things that we're not gonna be able to take out when we leave, right? All those things you didn't know. So you built out everything from the jump. And now that you have the business acumen, and you guys are operating for a year, everything, you could come into, flick on the lights, pop, people coming in, you know what to do. Now you're in that franchise world. It's a brand new space because franchise is a little bit different. How did you guys figure that out, or who walked you through it? Or did you just say, hey, let's figure it out, just like we figured out the restaurant space, which is a hard space to work in too?
Yeah. No, man, that's a good question. I mean, we figured it out once we got those introductions and we putting together this team and these brands and now the brands, the brands that have ownership, that are more intentional about who they're handing it off to, they want to get to know you. Right. But I'm also naturally curious. I want to know you in it and how you got to building this brand. What are the things that make it work? What should I expect from it? And then that starts to expose you to all the systems and their execution model and how they build their budgets and how they train their people. And through that process, I learned, okay, this is this is like next level operation. Like we figured out the restaurant. I mean, again, we bumped ahead all along the way for the first 12 months or so. And then we figured out how to make it make money, but it's still a one-stop, mom and pop type outfit. And then next thing you know, we talking to brands owned by billion-dollar companies, and it's a different level of operation. I mean, yes, everything is laid out like, and that's when I saw that, again, that next level of how to go from good to great. And so that's how I learned it, was getting
Collins,
brands, seeing what worked and what didn't.
You guys, he made a quote of a book, Good to Great, by Jim Collins. Definitely a good read. I actually just recommended it to somebody last week as they were going on their journey of just growing. So man, it's when you start looking at one aspect I want to look at, I'm going to go another place, but I want to go here. You said 12 months, right? Mm-hmm. The restaurant business is not, dude, it's around the clock. Like I see guys that open a restaurant, people look at their times when restaurants are open and like, oh yeah, the restaurant's open from whatever, 11, let's say 11 a.m. to, 11 p.m. I don't know, whatever, right? Mm-hmm. The prep time before then to get the stuff ready, the cleanup time after then, like you're not sleeping, right? You're spending a lot of time in the restaurant. You might as well forget getting a house together. Let's get a cot in the back. Go to the back.
Basically,
like and being and going at it for that 12 months, like talk about just being in that grind and being that laser focus with really no days off, right? While you're going through that process
at a young age.
Yeah, at a young age.
Yeah, I mean, it was the most challenging thing I've ever done. I will say without question, but it was also an obsession, like I had to. I'm telling you, that's why I always say that if it's not something that you just have to do, I don't know that entrepreneurship is for you unless you can find a model that's more passive, doesn't require as much. But if you're trying to just go all in, it's gotta be in you. You gotta be almost obsessive about it. And my relationship to my vision for myself, the vision I have for myself is really strong. Like it hasn't, nothing's broken it yet. And so I don't know. It was just like that attachment, that obsession. Failing was not an option. I'm really one of those crazy kind of people where you just keep going. Like you just take the next step. And it was tough, but because of that relationship and my confidence in just kind of believing that we're gonna come out the other side. And that's really what sustained it. And then there was nothing to fall back on. That's another beautiful thing about not having something to fall back on is what you gonna do? You gonna be on the street? I'm not going back to corporate America. It's not an option for me. So it was a combination of all that fueled me kind of moving through those times. But it was tough. It requires a lot of all of them. I mean, we're in there practically no days off. We're doing every position. I'm cleaning toilets. I'm bartending. I'm managing. I'm cook, like the whole deal. We're fully committed.
A twofold question. So Black people, when we're broke, we don't like to look broke.
Yeah.
Right. So I want to know what was your parents saying when you house being repoed, or they're selling out on the court steps and you could probably hear that they're selling your house for way less than it's worth. And you're like, why would you take it from me if you're selling it for less? Right. And then all your friends knew, Randy was up in Philly doing his thing, man, working at this Fortune 100 company, had an idea, come back here. He's opening a restaurant. What is the persona that you're putting out? Because now that you went through it, you're on the other side. You could say, yeah, well, they took my house, they took my car, the one bike, and it's all good because you're on the up and up. But at that time, what was your parents saying? And then what was your projection to how you were really living to the people on the outside?
Yeah. So my parents, I got to give them credit because I know they were filtering out a lot of the stuff they wanted to say to me. Like, boy, what the? I know they were, but the
especially your dad.
Yeah, so they didn't. And they also know, they know they child. They know once I'm locked into something.
That's it.
Just go ahead and get out. You're gonna have to let him do it. So I didn't get a lot of that feedback. My mom would always be like, "Baby, I don't care what you got going on. You better have health insurance. Like you better have, it was like that kind of thing, like a mother would do." But they really didn't give me too hard of a time. I know that they were stressed about it. I know they were praying a lot about it because they knew what was going on. It's very real with them. But they kind of let me figure it out. And I think, again, they also knew that to know me is to know I have to figure it out. Like,
yes, sir.
Yeah.
So luckily I had support. I mean, I got lucky with them in that, they were supportive and kind of gave me room to, kind of just express, myself, kind of.
Yeah. Man.
So the outside persona, I still want to know.
The outside persona. Well, see, so here's the thing that was saving us having to be just totally transparent about is that we still had this. So we got rid of all our personal stuff, our personal bankruptcy, but we kept the business as insulated as we could. And it was still a popular place. And we're working in there every day anyway. So it's just kind of like, oh yeah, guys, they working. You want to like they're at the restaurant. So I am certain that 99% of people had no clue what we were dealing with outside of those four walls, but we were always inside those four walls. So there wasn't a lot of exposure to what the rest of life looked like. Now, I'm young and we still, having relationships and that kind of stuff. And that kind of, that pillow talk got real. Like some other what was really happening, but they were solid and it never turned anything outside of what we discussed. But I mean,
at least they had food because, you can bring food for the restaurant, baby. I got food for you. You never go hungry. The reason why I ask that is because a lot of people see entrepreneurs now and they're just like, oh man, those guys, people don't know how many entrepreneurs right now that's working and their business are thriving. The other side, what the sacrifice they're really giving up in their personal life to make that business work, especially if that business is the only source of income to sustain that lifestyle.
Yeah, facts.
So now you're giving everything back to the business because you don't want that business to go under. While at the same time, you still have to work your personal life, your loved one, whatever the situation. Somebody wants to go out, somebody wants to do this, somebody wants to do that. And you're like, light bill going out. And so you have to make something work. They don't see that sacrifice and they all are envious of that entrepreneur lifestyle, but they don't want to make that sacrifice when it comes to their turn. And that's what I wanted to get out is that you are willing to make that sacrifice in your personal life to let that business grow. And a lot of times it's the other way around. They'll let the business fail and then they'll push their personal lifestyle.
Yeah. And like another thing I would tell folks is you do not get into entrepreneurship because you think it's cool. That is like that. You're describing that kind of person. Like, a business owner, look at me. Like that ain't it. Don't get into restaurants because you think it's cool to have a place to invite your people to. And that's not it. Like you have to want it. And you got to go into it just like, for people that have children, like you're going to do what it takes to do the best you can by that child. That is a business. Like that is how you make that work. Deadbeat dad and that thing is not going to work out. You got to be fully into it. So I agree 100%. And there is a lot of that out there and the results show it.
Yeah. Talk about just your franchising a little bit more. You say you got it. You're in the airport,
which is big.
Yeah, it is. Could you share a little bit some of the franchising organizations that you have and you guys brought together, or how that's been growing for you over the last years?
Yeah, I mean, so the franchise. So in September, we are on schedule to open our 20th store. So
congrats.
Thanks, man. Thanks. We're really excited about it. Got a great team that's helped get it there, the whole thing. And we will have at that point 10 different franchise brands that we work with, or that we license or franchise out. That's been growing. And we really like that space. I mean, we got into the business not because we're like master chefs and let me show you how to cook and express my spirit through my food. And that we business people. We thought this could make money, because on the guest side, you see a restaurant full of people, you're just like, oh, they got to be making money. And you get on the other side of it, like, that's not the case. But our intention to make money was always core to why we were doing this. So why we have really leaned into franchising is because the success rate is just a lot higher. I mean, it's just a fact. I mean, it's one of the things that I like to talk to our community about, because we have so much entrepreneurial energy, right? Which is a beautiful thing. But there is a franchise model. It's not just restaurants. There is a franchise for just about any kind of business that you can think of, any kind of industry, from financial services to hotels to, I found a franchise that's centered around picking up dog doo-doo in the backyards of folks that don't want to go clean up after their dog that have fences. And literally it's a franchise where you can get on a subscription. They'll come out twice a week. My point is, you can franchise anything. And here's the stat that really got me more passionate about it, is that 65% of businesses fail. This is reported by the SBA, Small Business Administration. Over 90% of franchises succeed over the same time period. Because
they have a system.
They got it, and they figured it out. All the we did, they did that decades ago.
Yeah.
And it's like, all you have to do is take this playbook and do the playbook. And your chances of success are orders of magnitude higher than you just, like I did, getting on the drawing board and just trying to come up with something of my own making. And so I've gotten into really sharing a lot of that stuff, and actually created content to get out there, particularly for our community, as like another way to kind of harness all that entrepreneurial activity that statistics say will get to a better outcome, like on average by a long shot. So all that to say, to your question about franchising, it's going great. We're growing. And I'm also working on getting on the other side of franchising equation, which is launching my own, after doing this for, 10-year franchising for 10 years, kind of learning how they do it, building my own franchise brand, proving that kind of franchising that out. But I'm all about it.
Talk to those people that don't know anything about franchising, but swear they know everything about multi-level marketing, and kind of mix the two together, feeling like, oh man, there's another pyramid scheme, man. I'm not franchising. Man, they're gonna come just take my money, and the top guys is gonna get rich. I ain't gonna get nothing. Like, and I heard, and the reason why I'm saying it, I heard some people saying, I'm like, it's a little different here, right? Have you heard that, or have anyone approached you in that vein?
I haven't heard that. I believe it, but I have not personally heard that. But I can believe it. I can certainly believe it. What I can tell you is that franchising is not multi-level marketing at all. I mean, franchise is an existing business having a brand that is generally recognized by the consumer. Like, this is something that's already kind of understood in a given market. Like, everybody knows what McDonald's is. And I'm just using it because that's the business I'm in. But you don't have to spend money on marketing to explaining to people what McDonald's is. McDonald's been doing that for 80 years, right? So they give you that. And brand equity, they call it, is an asset. That's something that draws people to you. Chick-fil-A, knowing what that is. So when it's done right, they have that. And then they have, in the restaurant business, here is the menu. Like, here's what you sell. You don't have to go hire chefs and figure out this is over 80 years, what has worked and makes money. And they give you that. And then they say, here's how to operate, how to open and close the business and everything in between. And then they hand that to you. And they charge you typically 3 things. Typically, it's a franchise fee, which means The franchise fee is what gives you the rights to open up a McDonald's.
Yep.
So you say, all right, I want to open McDonald's. I like you. You like me. Okay, we'll give you the rights to open a store with it. You can't just go out there and open a store with golden arches and sell a Big Mac and fries.
You got to do the McDowell. You got to do the McDowell thing.
Can't do my McDowell.
Right? You got to get permission for that. Right? So it's the permission to do that. And that'll be a set fee, and every brand is different. And then they will charge a royalty, which is because we've invested all this in making this a place that people want to come and spend money, we're going to tax you on that. So we're going to get a percentage of every dollar. It might 2%, could be 10%. There's a range that they're going to charge you for that. And then sometimes there's a marketing fee. Some brands, you see commercials about, come to Jiffy Lube. Which
you got to pay. You got to pay for that. Yeah, you don't got to do your own marketing like that. Yeah,
it helps drive people into your store. So that's what it is. But what you get in exchange is you get a proven business that is more likely to succeed and fail.
Yeah,
and a model that is profitable.
Yeah.
And that's the trade-off. But that is real and like legitimate business. That is not that multi-layer is not. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah,
it's real business. There's not it's not a pyramid at all.
Now this is I'm getting the sense when you said we built a group, a team. So I know, and you know more about this than I do because you're in the franchise world. But in 2001, 2002, when I looked at a McDonald's, you have to have liquid cash $500,000 in order for them to even look at you to open a McDonald's. Now I'm hearing it's $1 million liquid to open a McDonald's, right? So a lot of our people, a lot of Black people, a lot of people in our communities, how could they overcome not having that liquid cash at the present moment? Is it the group that you form? I don't know. Can you talk to them about that? Because they're like, okay, hey, Randy, we're all in. We love what you're saying. I got $10. I'm ready to do it.
Yeah, that is a fact. And the reality is, there is unfortunately like no pot of gold out there waiting for folks. But what I can tell you is that there is a franchise for just about any budget, probably starting at about $5,000 to $10,000, which I know is not nothing, but that's a far cry from $1 million, right? But that might be janitorial services. When I got into building content, I was looking at different franchise types, and I found a franchise that repaired and cleaned grout in between tile. So think about your kitchen, like the grout in between if you got tiles and how that wears away over time.
Yeah.
It's all they did, right? The materials are really cheap. I don't want to quote the number because I'm not 100% certain, but it was on the lower side. I'm like $20,000-$30,000, but far cry from McDonald's. And again, that's not no money, but that starts to become money that you can figure out potentially creatively. The average territory did $1 million in revenue and a 35% profit margin, which means people for that investment over the course of a year could make $350,000 on average looking at a franchise like that we don't even think about, grout.
Yes,
so
sir.
If we're willing to be, now, is that the sexiest thing? No, but maybe, we like to be cool, and I get all of that. And if that matters, go cool. I'm trying to, the people that want to get to a bag is the folks that need to understand that, because I have, since learning that, I've sat and watched people build fortunes in businesses that you wouldn't even imagine.
Correct.
That pay really well, that don't cost a lot of money up front. So what I would say to that person is, maybe McDonald's isn't for you. It wouldn't have been for me. I didn't have $1 million put up. I'll tell you right now. No, I still don't. I haven't. But there are plenty of franchise brands and franchise models that you can get into that do phenomenally well, that are kind of quiet.
Yes.
You adopt this system and go get to it.
Systems.
I'm just gonna echo that. And you said something that I love. I know it's not sexy. And a lot of times that's what's stopping us from getting to that bag.
Yeah.
Because now you have, say you have a franchise that's a automotive place, right? That you repair cars or something, and you could buy into that, but you have to be in overalls every day. Your fingernails got to be dirty. You're eating your sandwich with grease on it, and the girl ain't coming into. I'm talking from the male perspective. The girl's not coming in saying, "Oh man, look at that guy covered in grease." I know it's not sexy, but what do you want to get to? Do you want to get to that bag, or are you willing to give up that persona of looking like, okay, I could dress up in a white shirt, go to work with a tie on, or you're willing to say, hey, like you said, 35% of $1 million just to clean grout. Like, let's go. Right?
What's the problem?
Exactly. Exactly.
You know?
Oh my goodness.
You got to know what you're doing it for, man. And if it's about being cool, I would find a lesser expensive, less painful way to be cool, because you're going to lose your shirt.
Yeah.
Get a good photographer, borrow some of your homies' clothes, get some photos, put that out there to be cool. This is just not the playground to do it just to kind of look a certain way, is what I was. But you got to know what you're in it for.
Yeah. Man, you said something key, and I think it will kind of segue into some of the things that you're creating now, systems, right? Systems. The reason why, and you said the reason why franchising has done well is because the systems that they have in place, tried and true systems and methodologies, processes that they have seen, they used, they failed, they succeeded at, they pulled all the successes into one place and said, all right, now if you do this, right, it's repeatable, right? Talk about, like, a lot of people, and I'm going to move this to like fitness, right? Because there's systems in fitness, right? And there's programs out there galore for fit. And I guarantee you, like, every last one of the programs work. But the only problem is the person that's working the program, right? And, so, as you're getting into, we're talking about franchise, we're talking about systems, talk about how important it is to follow the steps that are prescribed to you, right? And don't get me wrong, there may be some innovative ways to enhance some things or whatever it may be, but being a stickler about, hey, I'm gonna follow it as it shows, so I can see the success that I'm looking for from this business. Because those people that start something like, man, they said I was gonna lose 30 pounds, and like I only lost, I lost a negative 10 pounds. I mean, I gained 10 pounds, it's like, talk about systems for us.
Yeah.
And then before you go, talk about, again, embellish a little bit more on the things that you're creating now. You say you start creating programs and things of that nature.
Yeah. Okay. So systems, man, system, like franchises in general are systems that have been proven, like the good ones. And the reason why they package it like that, and you want to do your homework, because all franchises are not created the same, just like anything else. But generally speaking, the ones that have been around and created a lot of success for themselves and for others have been able to get to that point because they figured out what works. Yeah. And if in most, is also a statistic, is that the most franchisees, the people that get the franchise and operate them, that fail because they didn't follow the system. Like they went rogue, they got creative. Now, sometimes, the people on the front line will kind of observe ideas and feed that back to the brand. And if the brand is good, they'll adopt the ones that make sense. But you gotta be willing to trust and follow the playbook that's being handed off to you. And that wanting to trust and follow should come out of the research you've done about the brand you're getting into and the track record they've established. Like, do your homework. But it's important to do that because that's the recipe for success. I mean, that's how they got there and what they did to fine tune it. Now, that is not to say that even if you do the right things, you can't fail. Anything can fail in business. Coming out of COVID, like anything can happen. But you reduce the odds of failure significantly by following the system. So it's critical when you're dealing with something that has been proven. to do so.
Yeah. No.
Yes, yeah. And talk about your programs that, like Rick said, no, people, to be transparent, travelers, that's what we call them, Randy, because everybody's on a journey with us. We had told Randy in the green room, listen, brother, if at the 15-minute mark, we tell you, hey, Randy, man, thanks for coming to this program, and we'll talk to you another time. That means you suck. It's almost like Randy's gonna have to tell us, like, yo, boys, we got to get off this. it's just a great conversation with you. But like Ricky said, talk to people, because now that people are listening, they said, okay, Randy know what he's doing. He's got it from the mud, right? So now he has this program. I really want to look him up and get this program. Talk about the program that you said you're trying to, or the content that you're trying to put together to help those people out there that are looking to get into franchising.
Yeah, so doing this now, this being like a franchisee, work franchising brands, been doing and operating those restaurants, been doing that now 10 years. And if you're paying attention, you can learn a lot in 10 years. And I get asked about franchising like a lot, or I'm really big on giving back and speaking to kids and trying to help do what I can to create more folks getting into the business ownership and all of that. And I get a lot of questions about franchising. And one of my friends was like, man, you really need to put this out there for people to understand, because it's powerful. And anybody knows me is like, I'm more like a behind the scenes Batman type, like person, but I am really big on our community, increasing our capacity and competency on business ownership and operating and all that kind of stuff. So I decided to take all the stuff I've learned over the past decade plus in the franchising world and put it into a structure, a curriculum that I think will be very helpful for those that are interested in business, that have the drive, that have kind of that entrepreneurial energy, and are open to the different avenues that can take them there. And I developed a coursework. I work with the folks that built Masterclass. I don't know if your audience has heard of that, but some of the folks.
Yeah.
So I tried to, give a good, kind of quality experience. But the main thing was just the content. And I got that packaged and ready to launch probably in the next 60, 90 days or so, once people kind of get back in school mode. But the point of it is to arm ourselves with information that increases the likelihood of success in a real way from someone that's done it both ways, and like almost just totally wiped out, like doing it on my own versus getting into franchising and having a whole different financial outlook. And so that's the course that's coming out. It's the creator is the real Mr. Franchise. And that will be launching, like I said, in about 60, 90 days. But I'm really excited about it. And the other driving force behind it is that I know if I knew then what I know now, I started with franchise. I mean,
yes, sir.
It's not even a thing. I would have started in a franchise, and I'm not complaining about what we've been able to achieve, and I'm grateful for where I've landed today. But I think I'd be multiple times where I am, because I got like it's ready made, like it's fully baked.
Sir.
Yeah.
So I just want to set more people up for that, because you don't have to go through bankruptcy and foreclosure and sharing them. Like you don't have to. It's going to be a lot of work, but it doesn't have to be that much pain. Like there's nothing new under the sun. Someone has done something exactly like or very similar to what you want to do, and I'm just trying to be that for whoever's interested in doing something similar to what I'm doing.
Yes, sir. And I'm rooting for you, because when I hear stories like what happened to that lady on the radio, I know down in Atlanta, you're hearing that when she went to the store and they put Blackie on her receipt. If we're able to open more businesses in our neighborhood, we could alleviate some of that stress of those kind of situations. Because sometimes I get annoyed with us because we want to be consumers more than we want to be owners. And I understand that there has to be a consumer factor, because if I don't have a consumer for my product, I'm going to go bankrupt. Or if I don't have somebody that wants to work versus owning, that I'll also go bankrupt because I'll be doing everything. Because 5 entrepreneurs cannot work in one space. I'll tell you that much. Right. So I'm rooting for you, and I'm pulling for you, because I really think that we need to, when we think about entrepreneurship, we don't look at that franchising factor. What we try to do is we try to go and start to do from, like you said, straight out the mud, go bankrupt, when you're saying there's something here that's ready made to tailor exactly to what you want to do, and all you have to do is pay XYZ, and you can end up Xing whatever your potential is. So I'm pulling for you. I didn't want to jump on you, Rick, if you had something to say.
No, man. This has been phenomenal. And what I want to make sure you get an opportunity to share with all of our travelers where they can connect with you, to learn more about, everything that you're doing. I know you say your course is coming together in a few days, a couple months, but more so wanted to, if there's anywhere that someone can touch you and learn a little bit about you, contact you, stop in one of your restaurants, right? Let them know where they can get that information from.
Yeah, as long as they don't judge me, because I'm on a short bus with social media. I gotta be honest. It's getting me out there, so it's getting better. But my handle pretty much across all the platforms, IG, LinkedIn. I'm not on TikTok yet, but Facebook, wherever people are going, is Randy Hazelton.
Yeah.
And then the franchise course is the Real Mr. Franchise. On IG, it's the Real Mr. Franchise. That's the handle. So you guys can reach out to me there. And listen, I'm one of those that I mean it. I mean, if I can answer questions, just like message me. I want to be a resource to our folks, because I didn't have any. I don't think I was too much looking either, which is another thing to not do. But if I can be helpful, if I can answer, please reach out to me. But you can find me on those platforms.
Love it. Well, travelers, man, this has been another great session today, man. Randy, I knew the conversation was going to be good, but it really has my brain thinking about a lot of things, even from my end. And like we tell people every single week, Marlon and I selfishly do this, because as much as we're getting information out to the world, information is flowing through us as well. And, as we learning and meeting new people, forming our bonds and building our network with individuals, man, it just helps us be able to offer more to more people out there. So, man, really appreciate you coming on board and sharing your story with us. And travelers, man, this is, I hope you guys just pause this, I'm going to say rewind, but we don't rewind anymore. Go skip back 30 seconds.
Push your finger back, whatever.
Push your finger back, really listen to the heart of Randy, of just the roller coaster ride, man. And to this, and I'm going to speak on his behalf in this regard, and correct me if I'm wrong, Randy, just because you get to the point now where you are, it doesn't mean that the struggles are over. They're just different. They're just different. Right. Yeah. And as an entrepreneur, you just grow with it. And they get bigger as you get bigger, and the things that you're handling become bigger, and the problems become bigger. But you become a bigger person and dealing with those problems, and you keep growing through it. And, you're responsible. He said they have 20 restaurants. They're opening up. It'll be 21. You open it up, or was it 20
in September?
In September, yeah. They're not at all these restaurants working it themselves. They have people that are employed by them now, right?
And we didn't cover the pandemic, how they
yeah, we didn't even talk about that
with it being in the airport, which traveling was not. Right?
Whoa, yeah. So, man, we'll be here for another 2 hours. But no, it's just all to show guys, like, there's levels to it. But once you make that commitment to say, you know what, my goal, my dream is bigger than me giving up right now, and I'm just gonna go all after it, and find the information. Like Randy said, he lived through it, man. He said, if you do it all again, we usually ask a question, what would you do if you could talk to that person that just started a business, right? And you're like, hey, man, I would have started franchising. I wouldn't have went through all that. I would have went straight to franchising. Like, just having those nuggets, right there, man. Push you all ahead, man. But Randy, thank you so much for joining us today. Travelers, thank you so much for listening again to our podcast. We're here because of you, and we'll be here the same time next week at the same place on the Success Journey Show. Everyone have a good one. Peace.
You've been listening to the Success Journey Show, where your dreams, drive, determination, and diligence are the foundation to success. For more information, check out thesuccessjourneyshow.com. The Journey Squad is here helping you to your destination.